So with that, and with no more questions, yes, sir, go ahead.
In reference to the plume, the city of Parchment, we were pumping 234,000 gallons of water out of that area a day. Now that we're not doing that, what kind of effect is it going to have on the plume? And is the studies going to be accurate, and how well? Because the groundwater flows that way.
Right, that's a good point. And definitely the pumping of municipal wells would have an effect on that plume and potentially pulling in contamination. Just like at the manufacturing, at the paper mills having their production wells, when they were making paper, they used a lot of water. Those wells also pumped a lot of water. It can definitely have an effect on groundwater flow and where the plume goes. In regards to how it's going to affect the investigation, so the samples that we have from the municipal wells right now, the first samples that we had were when they were pumping. The plan is, before those wells are decommissioned, I know that Georgia Pacific would like to go out and resample those wells. So we'll kind of get a little bit of a sense on if, in the course of the 8 months, almost a year difference in the testing, if and when, how much they kind of were pulling in contamination. But yes, the pumping wells definitely would have an effect on the plume.
I know we wanted to take cards, but let's go ahead and.
Well, it dovetails with this question. I was wondering, any consideration to use those wells and pump them through, like what's happening in Richmond with Clean Harbor and just remediate the groundwater, or is that not?
I think right now with those wells, the best thing for them would just to be decommissioned. We don't really have a good handle yet on the exact sources. I mean, we kind of know that definitely landfill areas, little mill properties, but like I said, there could be potential other sources that are out there. I think if and when we do get to a point of doing remediation, we'll get more bang for our buck being closer to the higher concentrations out there.
So one more.
I just wondered if you could quick address, where are we at with this House bill? I think it was 4205, the no stricter than federal. I mean, if we're doing these exposure assessments, isn't that kind of pointless when our hands are tied and being able to lower the limit anyhow? And to find out that was introduced by Jim Thomas of Alpena, where they were actually dealing with contamination, is kind of disturbing. I'm not understanding, I believe Beth Griffin voted in favor of that as well, why they would like to prevent us from lowering that limit if they're expressing concern over these contamination sites.
Thank you. So I'll see if anyone here wants to speak to the issue of how that bill may constrain the ability to do your jobs, and then I can talk about my bill quickly that was proposed to undo those more stricter than federal guidelines. Or if you don't want to go there, that's okay too. I will.
Well, I'll just say, like, re-emphasize what I talked about earlier, is we're moving forward to establish drinking water maximum contaminant levels. And so we have begun that rulemaking process, submitted the request for rulemaking, and that's been accepted by the Office of Regulatory Reinvention, and we'll continue down that process, including stakeholder input, and then that legislative rulemaking process that will then happen beginning in October. And looking forward to that process. And like I said, if everything goes without any hiccups, we should have enforceable standards for PFAS in drinking water, by April of next year. And so that doesn't really speak to what, other standards, but Michigan does have 2 standards today that are enforceable that many other states and the federal government does not have. We have enforceable groundwater protection standards for drinking water under Part 201, our cleanup program. That's based on that 70 parts per trillion PFOA, PFOS, and we also, I believe, are one of the only states in the country, fortunately, that have enforceable surface water protection standards for PFOA and PFOS, and those are driving the investigations and remediations across the state today.
Yep, and I would just say that rules can be overridden by the legislature. So we still, I think, need in statute, by law, enforceable levels. And there's legislation that's been proposed by Senator Winnie Brinks. I'm a co-sponsor of that legislation, and to date, unfortunately, that has not had any action taken on it other than being referred to committee. And the same is true with my bill that would set us with, that would release us from the ability to not set, we're prohibited now from setting standards higher, different than the federal government sets, which is typically a floor. And both those pieces, the rulemaking panel that the department has to go through was a product of lame duck, as was the ability to not set standards higher than the federal legislation that was a product of the lame duck legislative session. So we'll see where those bills go. So with that, I want to recognize Jason Meisner with our Parchment Public Schools, and appreciate you letting us be in this fine facility tonight. Thank you very much. And so to Jason and to our excellent panel, which hopefully has addressed your questions, I'm extremely impressed by them. I hope we'll give them a round of applause for being here and answering the questions. I look forward to seeing you at my next town hall, and thank you so much for coming out. We'll stay around and be available for anything further. Have a great night, folks. Thank you.